Welcome into WagerTalk's Last Call. I'm Meghan Payton. Happy Saturday. It's the show that gets you involved. We are powered by our YouTube live comments. So if you're new here, you get to run the show. You head over to the live chat. Let us know any bets, predictions you're going after. Also, this is the time and the chance to utilize our panel members and ask them any questions that are just near and dear and dying to know before we get into Saturday's slate. Four amazing guests joining us today on Last Call. We have Bryan Power, Drew Martin, Moneyline Matt, and Tony Mejia. Guys, we got MLB to talk about, NBA going on, some UFC, lots of action here. Playoffs are in the midst, also some NHL stuff as well. We start with our first guest, that is Drew Martin. Drew, welcome into WagerTalk's Last Call. You've been crushing it. You are up 50% or up plus 50% profit since last June on all MLB money lines. You also have an MLB best bet package up at WagerTalk. So tell us about what that is and where we can find it.
Sure, Meghan. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, WagerTalk.com is where you can get all of my premium plays. And it's a early Saturday here with some good MLB slates. So excited to talk about it with you. And you bring up the 50% profit since last June. That's in MLB. It's been a nice run here, kind of over the long term. But I'll tell you this, Meghan, it was tough getting up this morning because I did take a big loss last night. So hey, it's one of those things in this business. You can't win them all, but I'm in bounce back mode and looking to get back on the profitable train with you breaking down these games. So thanks for having me, Meghan.
Drew, a couple MLB games that you're looking at. Let's start with the most competitive division in the MLB. That's the AL East. We're looking at the Rays Yankees game. Tampa's minus 142, totals at 8. How are you eyeing this, and where can we get some leans here?
Yeah, how about it, Meghan? In the overnight market, we get about a 20-cent move here on the Tampa Bay Rays since we sent it in last night. And I'll tell you, some of that is my money. And I think it's it's very telling for, where the money's coming in on what side's going to win here, guys. This is the first game up on Saturday, 105 Eastern here. And we get the best team in MLB, Meghan, with the one of, if not the best pitchers in MLB. And Shane McClanahan here, the lefty going for the Rays. This guy's 7-0, guys. He's got 58 strikeouts on the season. Now we're on the road against the Yankees in Yankee Stadium. So I actually think that that's why we get the Rays at this price point. Think about it. They're 30-10, one of the best teams since, the mid 1980s here, guys. They have lost 3 of their last 4 games. So this is kind of like the toughest stretch they've had this season. But, momentum is only as strong as the next day's starting pitcher, and that is McClanahan. So they're up 8 units on the season, plus 120 run differential, most home runs in MLB. I'm not stepping in front of the Rays. In fact, I'm betting the Rays here. I know it's a tough matchup against the Yankees. Nestor Cortez, Nasty Nestor, like they like to call him, the lefty going for the Yankees. He's actually from Hialeah, Florida, not far from where I'm talking right now. But unfortunately, the Florida team and the Tampa Bay Rays, I think, are going to take this one early, Meghan.
I'm with you, Drew. Even on the road, the Rays are 11-7. Hard to do in a very competitive division. The AL East, I've been saying, is the AFC West version of the MLB. It's been very fun to track. And though the Yankees are last in that division, they're still above 500. This is a great group of four different teams that, I mean, you could put the Red Sox in there as well. So we call it then five. All right, let's switch over to another game on the slate that you're looking at. We got Phillies at Rockies. Philadelphia minus 146. The total's at 11 and a half. All right, I hear you might be finding a way to get us some plus money on this one. So what are you looking at here?
Yeah, sure, Megan. This is one where I think people are going to raise their eyebrows a little bit. You know, going up against the Phillies, with Colorado Rockies, what's going on here? But if you look at the Rockies out the gate, they've actually been playing better baseball than a lot of people thought coming into this season. And when you're going to bet the Rockies, you bring up the plus price. I want to be betting the Rocks when they're getting plus price and at home. Of course, plus price becomes if you're into sports betting, if you're risking 100, you're getting that extra bump when you win. And when you lose, you don't play any juice. But even more so about the Rockies, betting them at home and fading them on the road. This is a team that's winning less than 38% of their games on the road over the last two seasons. This is a sport of baseball, so that's a good sample size here, winning well less than 40% of your games on the road. And they're actually winning more than 53% of their games at home. So when we can catch them in this big plus price range at home, that's where I like to bet them. Now, Feltner, their starting pitcher, his last time out was not very good. But when you look at his stats, he went three of his last four starts giving up two runs or less. So if he can work here against the Phillies and kind of hold them at bay for 4 or 5 innings, hey, that Philly bullpen isn't all that great. They're on the road here in the thin air of Colorado. Plus price on the Rocks is the way I'm playing this one, Megan.
Philly's on a 4-game win streak. However, Colorado's been fantastic at home. I like the move there, Drew. Let's head over to the live chat. We have lots of questions coming in for you, Drew. We start with, let's go with Big Dog. He says, Drew, I don't know jack about MLB betting, but what stats are important when looking at pitching matchups other than ERA? Because that's pretty standard to know.
Yeah, Big Dog, good question. And first off, I'll tell you, it's good to just kind of admit what you don't know a lot about, because if you're one of those people in life, and this goes for more than just sports betting, if you're like, hey, I know this, and you really don't, hey, I think it can actually help you just to kind of realize that's what I try to do. When I don't know anything a lot, I try to get advice. So it's a good question where you're starting from. And actually, I agree with you. I don't think ERA is one you should kind of concentrate on a lot at all. The things I like to do, Big Dog, is I like to actually look at a pitcher's velocity, how many guys he's walking recently. And if the velocity is coming down and he's walking a lot of guys, I'll look to kind of fade that pitcher, Megan. Guys I like to bet on are guys that are not walking a lot of people. The velocity is staying consistent, if not even rising. Look to bet on those pitchers, and pitchers that are hot. I like to ride the hot hand type deal, like McClanahan, 7-0 out the gate. That is not a pitcher I'm looking to go against. I'm looking to ride those pitchers that are winning games and holding their opponents. They're going 6-ish innings, if not more, 7, 8, and holding their guys to, their opponents to 3 runs or less. They're not giving up more than 10 runs a start. They're not walking more than 4 batters, 4 walks in one game. I wouldn't look to bet on those pitchers.
Next up, coming in from Drew Redling, who are the top 5 hitters currently?
For the top 5 hitters currently, I mean, I guess we could pull it up here, but just off the top of my head, the guys I would look to kind of, I I don't know that that's too beneficial in the sports betting marketplace. I would actually go for
Right.
what are the guys that the market isn't pricing that are going to start hitting a lot better. And I mean, we could throw out actually the San Diego Padres are probably a good team. When you go in the middle of their lineup, like Machado, Tatis, they got the guy from the KBO right there in the middle of their lineup as well. That kind of lineup getting healthier right now. Sometimes Padres might not be the one just because they spent so much money in the offseason, but teams that are getting healthier are kind of, I guess, the lineups that I would look to bet on more rather than teams like, I don't know, actually the Yankees. And I know there's a lot of Yankees fans out there, but like people know that the Yankees, the Bronx Bombers, therefore you have to pay like more of a price tag to bet on those kind of lineups. I don't know. That's, I guess, not a great answer, Megan, but hey, it's what I can do early on a Saturday morning, I guess.
Hey, sometimes the right answer is it doesn't really matter whenever you're factoring in sports betting. This one's a good one though. Jerbaka42 says, would you take Rays first five? Rays are going to be minus 168 at this price. So it seems like you're just going to be better off taking the money line here, but you are the expert. Would you take Rays first five?
It's a good question. I wouldn't. I didn't anyway personally. And the reason being right off the top is when you do first five, a lot of people do it, and sometimes I do if you're giving up like the advantage in the bullpen. But you got to remember in betting baseball, one of the best things about betting baseball out there, guys, is it's half off. If you're betting an NFL game, you're risking 110 to win 100. Whereas in MLB, you're risking $105 to win 100 betting the full game sides. That's the thing I love the most about betting baseball. And when you bring it to first five at most sports books, you lose that kind of half off deal. In Tampa Bay, by my numbers, just pulling it up right now, the sixth, actually tied in fifth best bullpen. So no, I wouldn't. To answer the question, Megan, I would bet them full game today.
I like that thought process. Drew with 2 game previews on today's slate. Make sure you guys go and give Drew a follow on Twitter, on social media, but most importantly, go check out his MLB Best Bet 3 pack going up live today at wagertalk.com. Drew, we appreciate you joining us here on Last Call. Enjoy your weekend and go cash some tickets.
Absolutely, Megan. Thanks for having me on. Cash those tickets.
We continue the MLB talk, and we have Bryan Power here to continue that. But make sure while we are thinking baseball, get your mind starting to think about NBA. We got some playoff action to talk about with Moneyline Matt, Tony Mejia. So head over to the live chat, get your questions, and get your bets in. Bryan Power, thank you very much for joining us here on Last Call. Crushing it, as always, number one in UFC since July. In MLB, you're up 40 units since last October. And this makes sense because you've got a little combo pack going on at Wager Talk. UFC and MLB, tell us what it is. Where can we find it?
Yep, Megan, thanks for having me on. 3 plays on the docket here for Saturday. 1 best bet in UFC, 2 in MLB. You ran down the numbers there. Very proud of that. 70% in the UFC since joining Wager Talk. 26-11 run. Hit Sterling last week in the main event. So we're looking for another big win in the octagon and then hoping to go 2-0 in MLB. Coming off a split last night. One in the NBA rather easily. Looked a little hairy early with that under in Knicks Heat, but thankfully the Knicks fell apart over the last 3 quarters. And MLB had a parlay. We're hoping to go 2-0. Unfortunately, we just split. The Astros got it done. The Braves did not, but we will be talking about the Braves momentarily and whether or not I think they can get it done here today.
A little teaser for what's coming ahead. Hey, Brian's here to answer any MLB, NBA soccer questions that you guys have. So, granted, we will be previewing an MLB game. Feel free to go crazy with Brian. Ask him whatever you want. All right, we break down the game you're looking at tonight. That's going to be, or today rather, Braves at Blue Jays. Toronto minus 126. Totals at 9. Look, we're talking about two of the better teams in the MLB here, and they're going to be without top pitchers. That's why we're seeing a total so high. I mean, the Braves have been crushing it. So have the Blue Jays. Where are you looking, and how can we get some value here?
Yeah, first off, Megan, I'll absolutely co-sign what Drew said about Tampa Bay, who is the best team in baseball, no doubt about it. But let's talk about the best team over in the National League, that being Atlanta. It was a bit of a shock loss, at least to me, Friday night. They were shut out 3-0 by the Blue Jays. Previously, Braves were 15-3 on the road, outscoring teams by 3.3 runs per game. So no fluke whatsoever, just dominant on the road. Last night was also their first loss all year with Spencer Strider on the mound. They were previously 7-0 in his starts. Now, Bryce Elder is starting today's game for Atlanta. They're 6-1 with him on the mound so far this year. There was a question about ERA in the chat earlier, and there's so many advanced stats out here, and I just want to point to something. There's a stat called expected ERA, And this is something I look at when you match up the expected ERA versus the actual ERA. With Bryce Elder, there is a gap. 1.74 actual ERA versus 4.30 expected ERA. So he has not necessarily pitched as well as his ERA seems to suggest. That being said, I just saw it in the chat. This is more of a fade because I'm going with Atlanta again today. This is more of a fade of Berrios, who is the starter for Toronto. Berrios had a atrocious FIP last year. It was, I believe, third worst among all qualifiers. And his ERA this year is 4.91. That lines up with his expected ERA as well. I'm not buying a couple of recent quality starts he had. Those came against Pittsburgh, who is slumping badly here in May, and the White Sox, who are just simply not very good. In between those two quality starts, Megan, what did Berrios do? He faced a quality lineup at Fenway Park, the Boston Red Sox. He allows 5 runs and 11 hits. On May 1st, Atlanta, like Boston, has a strong lineup. We talked about their road success, 5.7 runs per game on the road. That's tied for third best of all teams. Only Tampa Bay and Toronto are scoring more away from home. And, 5 runs should be more than enough for Elder, who has not allowed an earned run in 4 of his 7 starts. So I would lean towards Atlanta to get a little revenge for last night's shutout loss here on Saturday afternoon.
Brian, I think Luis in the comments going to be very happy with that because they were asking, would you take the Braves on the money line? So right there, your question
Yep.
is answered. All right, Brian, we head over to the YouTube live chat. Got a lot of questions in coming from different sports. We start with baseball. Gavin says, as a Jays better or Braves better at Jabaka 42? To me, Barris looks like we should score some runs today. LOL. Would you take anything or lean anything on the total here?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, based on what I just said, Atlanta's path to victory is probably scoring, is scoring some runs. I expect them to score runs against Barris. As far as like a team total or the game total, I'm not on either of those. I mentioned the Braves are scoring 5.7 runs per game. I don't necessarily know they can continue doing that, over the course of 81 games away from home, but I would just stick to Braves money line. I think you're getting a really good price on that.
David Redlane says, Brian, would you bet any Zallen props today?
No, I would not actually. No, nothing in the prop market today. No.
All right, so let's switch over to a little NBA action. We got Jabaka 42 here saying 76ers first half. Just to set this game up a little bit, we've got game 7, Celtics Sixers. We're going to talk a little bit more and break this down with Matt and Tony Mejia. But Brian, just your initial thoughts on this game. Are the Sixers going to come out strong, and are they worth betting the first half?
In the first half. So I had Boston in game 6. What a terrible loss that was for Philadelphia. I mean, you've got Tatum misses 14 of his first 15 shots. The Sixers, of course, didn't exactly shoot the lights up. The thing with game 7, and I was looking at it earlier, I do not have an official play as of now, Megan. I have not made my move yet. But clearly, early money has shown up on the dog, which surprises me a little bit. And the under, which does not surprise me at all because, obviously the books had no choice but to shade that total because, we're in the era of information, right? Everybody knows about the game 7 under trend. We saw, obviously game 6 between these teams. What was it? 100 off the top of my head. I think it was 184 total points they finished with. So the big question, I think, is can Philadelphia rediscover their 3-point shooting? Usually teams don't do that on the road. So I guess, unfortunately, this is kind of a cop-out answer. You're going to have to stay tuned because I have not officially decided what I'm going with game 7. But I am not shocked that total is so low right now. I am a little surprised, though, that early money came in on the dog.
A nice little preview to some NBA playoff action. All right, we've got some soccer stuff. So let me jump over to this comment right now. Excuse me while I pull this up here. I believe we had, all right, coming in from Vegas, Degan. Bryan Power, Real Madrid were able to hold off Holland well enough to get the draw at home. How do you feel about them going to Man City on Wednesday?
Oh, okay. First of all, I really like the under against Getafe today. A little Saturday afternoon La Liga action. I know that's what's on everybody's mind here right now. But I would not expect them to win against Man City on Wednesday. I think giving up that equalizer in the second half really doomed them. Man City, I think, believe it or not, the price is pretty cheap on them to win in 90 minutes plus stoppage time in that second leg. Man City, best team in the world for those unfamiliar. And Real Madrid is a side that I thought had a tremendous run of luck in winning last year's Champions League. I do not think they're going to repeat it. I do think Man City is going to uh, win probably inside 90 minutes plus stoppage time. Speaking of stoppage time, of course, please tune into that show, which I am a part of every Tuesday morning on WagerTalk TV.
Bryan, we are throwing you around all of the major sports today on Saturday. We're even going to talk some UFC. So I appreciate you being so flexible here. Lots of questions coming in. So we've got one coming in from Kenneth. He says, Bryan, great info. Good luck to all. Any thoughts on Anthony Smith today in UFC? Smith is at minus 105.
Yeah, he's taken some money, and I agree with that. This is the co-main event of the card. Everyone can watch it on UFC. Yeah, Anthony Smith, I do like. If you're looking to take him, I would co-sign that. I think that would be a very sound wager.
Bryan Power, NBA, MLB, UFC, soccer. You're doing it all. And make sure everyone go give Bryan a follow on, of course, all his social media platforms. But go check out his 3-pack that he has up today at Wager Talk. It's UFC, it's MLB combined. He's been crushing it. Number one in UFC since last July. MLB, he's up 40 units since last October. Bryan, we are so grateful for your time, your picks, your knowledge here at Last Call. Enjoy your Saturday. We'll see you here next time.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend.
We had a little teaser into some NBA playoffs, and now it's time to really break it down. Guys, Moneyline Matt joining us here to talk some NBA action. Matt, thank you very much for joining us. Number one in all sports profit at SportsMemo. Number two in NBA playoff profit. What do you have going on today? What can we find? Where can we find you at, and where should we be looking?
Yeah, so if you go over to Sports Memo right now, you will see that I already have 2 plays loaded for tomorrow's Game 7 with the Philadelphia 76ers going on the road to face off against the Boston Celtics. Right now, I'm number one in overall profit. I am number one in overall NBA profit, 3 days, 7 days, 30 days. So got the clean sweep going on right now. Looking really seeing the board well, seeing the NBA playoffs well, and just looking to close out. Last night we had the Los Angeles Lakers close. So we're going to have the Nuggets and Lakers series coming up, but we still got one Game 7 to break down, talk about, find some angles for everyone. So I'm ready to roll.
It's time to talk some NBA playoffs, Matt. So head over, guys, to the chat right now. Let's start talking some basketball. Get your questions in from Matt, who breaks down the game of basketball so well. Let's talk Game 7. We have Sixers at Celtics. The last thing 76ers wanted to do was to send this thing back to TD Garden. That is what's happening. Boston -7, total at 201. Where are you looking at this? Let's start from the player prop perspective, because I know you're eyeing someone here.
Yeah, in this spot, I'm definitely taking a look at Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown's point prop here is 23.5 coming into the spot. And it might be a game a lot of people are still looking at Jason Tatum, but if you go back and look at Jason Tatum's track record in closeout games or Game 7s, he typically doesn't perform all that well. And more often than not, he actually goes under. So the guy that I'm looking at in this series or in this spot is going to be Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown has been the most consistent player on the Boston Celtics throughout the NBA playoffs. This series, he's actually shooting at a 55% rate. And it's kind of wild because he's shooting at a 55% rate, but he's actually only hit this line twice out of the 6 games. When he played against the Atlanta Hawks in the first series, he was shooting 20 shots per game and averaging 26.7 points. Now he's averaging more along the lines of 15 shots per game, so a huge decrease here. And last game, he saw only 13 shots. So the least amount that he shot throughout the entire series. And head coach Joe Mazzulla has to know that they have to get Jaylen Brown going in this spot. He's someone who he feeds the Boston Celtics crowd. The team feeds off of him. And he also has the best defensive matchups in this spot on top of that. When you look at Jason Tatum, he's going to be going against Tobias Harris or PJ Tucker, 2 guys who are fairly solid in terms of defensive ability. They're bigger bodies. They can get their hands up. They can get into you. As for Jaylen Brown, he's a little more versatile. So he's going to be going against potentially either Tyrese Maxey, James Harden, have some better matchups that he can take advantage of and get to the basket. So again, when you have those guys on you, I think he's going to be looking to attack. I think he's going to be looking to get to the free throw line, things of that nature. And, I grabbed this line last night at 23.5, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if it closes at 24.5. I think a lot of people are seeing what I'm seeing here. I think a lot of people are going to be looking to Jaylen Brown to go out, be aggressive, score early and often because of how Jason Tatum has actually played in these closeout games. He hasn't been very trustworthy. Yeah, he scores, but he generally doesn't go over his 29.5, maybe 30-point total here. So instead, I'm going to be going with the Robin to the Jason Tatum Batman with Jaylen Brown and going over the 23.5 points.
Matt, you can still get 23.5 on FanDuel Sportsbook right now. This is your chance. Head over, grab Jaylen Brown while you can. Let's talk total because we have someone in the comments saying total's at 201.5. Are we going to see a defensive game here? That's what it's suggesting. Would you take the under here?
Yeah, so I'll be honest. This is about I don't have a total play currently. I really haven't been looking at a ton of total looks, except for maybe I've ran a couple first quarter throughout the playoffs, things like that. But I'm with you. If you think it's going to go under, that's the way that I would be going as well. I think this is going to be a dogfight. Historically, with Game Sevens, it's a little tougher. The refs kind of hold their whistles a little bit, let the boys play, get into each other a little more. So yeah, for me, 201 total, it looks very low, and I think a lot of people will want to go over with that. But I would go under here. These are two very, very much defensive-minded teams. When you look at the 76ers in their last outing, they weren't really lighting it up from the three-point line. Either was the Boston Celtics. And that's kind of what it takes to go over and things of that nature. You got to hit these outside shots because Joel Embiid is going to be locking down that paint. As for the Boston Celtics, they're going to have Robert Williams locking it down. They're going to have Al Horford coming in and helping. And both teams rebound the basketball well on top of that. Not a ton of second chance points. So when that occurs, too, you're also getting the defense set up on top of that. So not as many fast break looks, things of that nature. So for me, my look definitely would be the under 201 here. I definitely wouldn't be really going over. But yeah, I don't know if I'll have a play on that one just yet.
I like where David's head's going here. David says Jaylen Brown over threes and over points. He's got to be playing for a new contract and probably a new team. Brown's made threes' line is at 2.5. Would you add this on to the over on his points?
Yeah, if you guys know me or follow me on Twitter, I definitely like my same game parlays. That's kind of what I'm known for, and actually kind of burst me into the field for my DFS background. But yeah, Jaylen Brown is definitely one of those guys where when he's going out having a good game, that 3-point shot is coming with it. He loves to come off that pick and roll, pull up, and we all know how confident Jaylen Brown can be. If he sees a couple shots go down early, expect him to keep it going. Expect him to try and light it up. And I totally agree. I think he's also rehearsing for a new contract. I think it's a bit of a pipe dream, but I'm hoping the Detroit Pistons can somehow get in that talk. I know it's a long shot, but I'm hoping for it. But I would definitely be with you, David. I think the 3 points, the 3-point attempts, or the 3-point over, I should say, should coincide with his points.
David's got another one talking James Harden over his assist line at 8.5. I've taken Harden over his assist the last 2 games, cashed both times. The line's still at 8.5 as it was last game. Do you like that in this one, Game 7?
Yeah, I'll be honest. Anytime it's under 9, I like the look of James Harden because Joel Embiid and James Harden go hand in hand in just about every game because of that pick and pop. They love to run that pick and roll. They love to get around that 3-point line, that little pocket pass that James Harden likes to use. And so if Joel Embiid is going, it's generally James Harden who's going with him. And currently this will kind of go into the side a little bit here. But for me, looking at this +7, I do think that's a lot of points to give a Philadelphia 76ers team in a Game 7, backs against the wall. For me, that would be my look if I were to go anywhere right now. But I think it can stay close enough for James Harden to go out and make plays. He has been that guy for this team. When he's going, that's when the 76ers have been winning these games. And Joel Embiid, the MVP, he has that great mid-range shot. And James Harden is that guy who gets into that action with him once again. So as long as Joel Embiid is knocking down those mid-range shots, then I fully expect James Harden to hit that over once again with his assists. And this is a spot where, Joel Embiid, MVP, back against the wall. Like I said, I expect him to come out and play. I expect him to score some points here. I haven't taken anyone on the 76ers point props just yet. And if I'm being honest, I haven't completely dove into that side. I just saw the Jaylen Brown early, and I really did like it, so I jumped on that last night. But Joel Embiid will definitely be someone I'm looking at as well. And if you like the Embiid points, you typically like the Harden assist to go with it.
Yeah, that's a good way to, again, same game parlay. I'll definitely be taking Harden over his 8.5 assists. Matt, you're great at breaking down NBA. You're also an expert at breaking down UFC. So we touched on this earlier in the show. Kenneth had a question about Anthony Smith today. Would you take him at minus 105 main card tonight? What do you think of this one?
So personally, I don't have a look on this fight, but I would actually be kind of looking at Johnny Walker here. I know Johnny Walker has a glass chin a lot of the times, and that's kind of why I'm not going with this fight. I actually didn't really love this fight card in general, but Johnny Walker is the younger of the two fighters. He's had a couple. I mean, Paul Craig, he's decent. He knocked him out though. It's solid. And for me, Anthony Smith, I think he's more so in the booth these days. I'm not sure exactly how he's going to come out and perform in this fight. But I don't know. That's a tough one to break down. Like I said, I'm not exactly going to be on this card. I've been focusing a lot on the NBA these days, just because of how well things have been going. But Johnny Walker, once again, he had that loss to Paul Craig, or that win to Paul Craig. He knocked Paul Craig out. Then he beat Ian Cutelaba, where Cutelaba, kind of on the downside. But his last loss was against Jamal Hill. Jamal Hill, we saw how great he's been. So for me, I actually would be looking at Johnny Walker, if anyone. Again, I know he gets a little chinny. I know that chin, he gets hit and he looks like it goes down all the time. But Anthony Smith is starting to get up there at age too, and I'm starting to wonder, where's that focus? He's commentating on every single UFC fight. He's not exactly primarily focusing on his UFC fight career at this point in time. So for me, I actually think I would go Johnny Walker, but once again, not a play that I have. Not really looking at this UFC card tonight.
Matt, we're trying to find a way to squeeze something else out of you, but we appreciate all of your breakdown on NBA, UFC as well. Head over and make sure you guys go check out what Matt has over at Sports Memo. He's been number 1 in sports profit, number 2 in NBA profits, playoff profit, that is. So go and check him out, Matt. We really appreciate your knowledge. Thank you very much for joining us here on Last Call. Go cash some tickets this Saturday.
Thanks for having me, everyone. Happy Saturday.
We keep talking basketball. We also have some MLB action. Tony Mejia, a regular here at Last Call, to break down all of your questions regarding NBA, MLB. He does it all. Tony Mejia on a 12-4, 5% run, number 1 in WagerTalk since October of 2020 overall, and 5% profits, 5% spreads, totals. And you also have some 4% plays up tonight, Tony. What do you have going on at WagerTalk?
Hey, Megan, happy Saturday. We'll have a 4% MLB infused package. Got some plays. One that I'll probably give out on the show that'll be a client play as well. Heavy on matinees today in MLB, but my 4% is a night game. There's a couple of really interesting night games as well. So that's what's going on in baseball and basketball. Obviously, we have a Mother's Day Game 7. Happy Mother's Day in advance to all the moms out there watching. And hopefully all the men take care of business and go get them dinner. But yeah, look, I am not having a great weekend so far. I hate losing 5% plays. I was on the Warriors last night. I was on Game 6 Clay last night. Game 6 Clay, 3 for 19, 2 for 12. First time under Steve Kerr that he's ever scored 10 points or fewer in 3 straight games. I really thought we would see his resurgence. He was basically the difference in why that game went so askew so early. Jordan Poole getting into foul trouble and giving them nothing, also a big factor. I mean, I thought they rebounded well with the Lakers. I thought they would hang around with the Curry flurry and potentially cover that spread, if not win outright. But did not work out for me. We're looked to bounce back. Baseball, I was a jinx too. I had Will Myers lose a ball in the lights and have it fly over his head in the 5th inning when I have a under 4.5, first 5 under. Then Jazz Chisholm homers on the very next pitch, and it gets to 5, bottom of the 5th. And Martin Perez of the Rangers can't hold 3 consecutive leads that Texas gave him in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. I had them as my big play in the first 5 as well. So some nights go like that. And I've been in this business a while, so you tend to brush those off. But I certainly heard for clients that had a bad night too.
Mejia, we bounce back tonight. If anyone knows anything about sports betting, this is the time to get on Mejia's plays because it's going to be a bounce back night for Tony. Tony's been crushing it. MLB, NBA. We all have off nights, but I know you're going to get some good stuff here for today and also for tomorrow. We're going to look at some NBA action. Game 7, Celtics Sixers. I didn't think we were going to get a Game 7. I took Sixers to win in Game 6. Didn't want to have to see them send it back to TD Garden. That's what it is now. And now Boston's -7. The total's at 201. We can talk side, we can talk total, but first I want to get into some player props because I know you have a player that you're eyeing for that game.
I do. First of all, let me co-sign what Moneyline Matt said about Jaylen Brown. I'm going to be in on that as a client play, so I'll give that out for free as well. And Malcolm Brogdon is going to be an overplay for me as well. He's it's 14.5 because that's what he's averaged basically for the whole season. DraftKings has it at 14.5. He's topped that number in 5 of the 6 games in this series. He topped it in the series clincher against the Atlanta Hawks. He's a guy that's been on a run. I mean, he just had a very quiet game 5. He scored just 7 points, but his other totals 20, 23, 15, 19, and 16. And he's been money from 3-point range. He can get to the line. Really not passing as much as he did in his earlier days, in his rookie of the year days. He's more of a scorer, and he's playing a healthy amount of minutes, 34 in game 1 and 30 in the most recent game. So definitely getting Mazzulla's confidence in Mazzulla's minutes. 14.5. Clearly the Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are the guys that stir the drink for the Celtics, but Malcolm Brogdon gets his opportunities and he gets a lot of open looks. So over 14.5 for him. And this has been such a crazy series. I mean, we go from 119 to 115 without Joel Embiid in game 1 to 95 to 86. And now that number is down to 201, which I believe is top 3 low bar total in these playoffs.
It's been pretty nuts. It's been a crazy series. One of the questions in the chat earlier was James Harden and his assists. The line's at 8.5. I've been cashing in on Harden over his assists the past 2 games. I think 8.5 is a good line. Would you take the over on here as well?
I would, and I'm leaning over towards this game, but I never touch a total until I see who the referees are, especially during the postseason. During the regular season, not as much. I mean, you kind of use the regular season numbers over 82 games as a guide as to who's an over ref, who's an under ref, who's a home ref, who's an away ref. But during the postseason, when you can isolate 3-man crews, it really helps. And I've done really well in totals in this playoffs as a result, partially of that. And so I'll look at it, but certainly leaning towards the over in this game. I think it's an over exaggeration to go so low at 201. And then your question was about James Harden. Harden is right now looking to pass all the time. I mean, you basically see him. He wants his pick and roll partner, Joel Embiid, to feel comfortable. He's coming around the set screen and looking for that extra body, be it Tyrese Maxey or Tobias Harris, to get an open look. And not really looking for himself since game 1. Game 1 was a game where he obviously had to be different because Embiid was out, and he won that game for them. But in game 2, he was non-existent. Game 3, he's really struggled with his shot. Maybe he's in his own head about it, but he's still a very willing passer and a guy that over the last few years has been really all about assists. So I would absolutely go over 8.5.
Mejia, it's time to talk some Western Conference Finals, and Lewis has a question in the chat. We're talking Lakers Nuggets. It was decided last night. This is going to be a great series. Lewis says, how do we feel about the AD Jokic matchup? I want to believe that AD will hold up very well and stop Jokic to an extent, but man, it's hard.
Yeah, and you know what else? Because of the fact that these teams haven't played in a few months, you can throw all the regular season series completely away. It's 2-2, and that's that. Jokic is a guy that most teams want him to get up and down the floor, so they'll run him. And what we saw out of LeBron James turning back the clock yesterday is that he still has the ability to grab a rebound and push. I mean, I think that was a big deal in taking advantage of Golden State's lack of rim protection. Jokic is a lot of things, but a rim protector, he's not one of them. Now, we'll see if Aaron Gordon can slow down LeBron, the way he was able to Kevin Durant. I thought that was a huge key in that series, but that remains to be seen. And, I think the number was a little short when I saw that the series price is the Denver Nuggets minus 145, which is entirely reasonable. And the Lakers, you just get plus 120. This is a number one seed that's essentially been the best team in the Western Conference since the season began, against team turmoil that turned it around at the trade deadline and is your number 7 seed and was down in the play-in. So clearly they've opened some eyes with their play. And it's definitely a winnable series. I will not write off the Lakers. In fact, I might lean that way. That I haven't made that decision. I just thought the number was interesting. Series price-wise, I would have expected Denver closer to 170 than 145.
It's a really good line right now, and this is going to be a fun series. First game on Tuesday right now, Nuggets -5. Tony, before we let you go, let's switch over to MLB. You've got a game you're going to break down quickly for us, but Kenneth has a question, says, looking good, Tony. Is today a day to bet against Oakland after a win last night? Much appreciated. Oakland A's take on the Texas Rangers.
Yeah, it was ridiculous what happened last night because Perez got run support, and he's been pretty good painting corners, and the A's hit him hard. So I'm a little leery on it. I haven't made a decision on them. I would bet against Oakland right now at your own risk because some of these young hitters are getting a lot of confidence, and they're in the lineup every day. Your Diaz's and Perez, the catcher that homered last night. Langoliers, he's been decent. A lot of guys that are starting to. Hey, there's no pressure in Oakland. There's maybe 8,000 fans in the stands. Everybody expects them to go to Las Vegas. These guys are out there performing to get to their next contract or become a fixture on that team, and they're performing right now. They've obviously been the worst team in MLB for the first month of the season, but lately I think they've been hitting a little well. So and they saw the Rangers' best 2 pitchers already with DeGrom already out. And Eovaldi was great. We gave out a winner on first pitch the other night, and then I expected Perez to follow suit yesterday, and he didn't. So a little leery on that.
Mejia, Reds at Marlins, first 5. What are you looking at?
It's some sort of Cuba Libre night or day, and they have Sandy Alcantara on the mound, reigning NL Cy Young Award winner. He has not looked like himself this season. Shown glimpses of it, not the pinpoint control that we're used to him having, but against the Cubs last time out, he pitched into the 9th inning, allowed just 2 runs, still a little too many hits, 9, but 9 Ks, no walks, which is, I think, the key factor for him. Reds, a light hitting lineup. I saw it before we came on the show because it's an early start, 1:05 Eastern. TJ Friedl, who's one of their catalysts, still not in the lineup due to an injury. And they scratched Nick Lodolo, a lefty who is talented. He hasn't had quite the year that I expected him to have, but still much better than what they're going to trot out there today. Derek Law will be their opener, and Levi Stout, who has pitched, give me 1 second, 4 innings this season, allowing 7 runs on 9 hits, and comes in with a 15.75 ERA, will be their bulk guy. So I'm going to go ahead and lay that juice. Minus 150. That'll be a 2% play because I don't want to invest too much in it. But that Alcantara can do a nice job against the Reds in the first 5, and that lineup with Luis Arias and Jazz Chisholm and Jorge Soler will be able to touch up Law and Stout.
A 4% play up in the MLB action today for Mejia. A 4% play up for the NBA tomorrow. Mejia crushing it on 5%, crushing it overall at WagerTalk. 12-4 on 5% plays. Number 1 in WagerTalk since October 2020 in 5% profits, spreads, totals, all the above. Mejia, we appreciate your time here on Saturday. We appreciate your patience being the last guest to join the show. Have a great weekend. Thank you very much for joining us.
Always a pleasure. Happy weekend.
That'll wrap up today's show on Wager Talk's Last Call. Enjoy the weekend. Mejia mentioned it. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Guys, make sure you take care of your wives, your people. All good here Saturday at Wager Talk Last Call. Make sure you guys drop a like before you head out. It always helps us here at YouTube. I appreciate you guys. Have a great weekend. Go cash some tickets.